The prison cook. Most cooks worry about impressing a table of guests. This one cooks for 1,000 people who never chose to be there, and does it on a budget that would make any restaurant chef walk out. In some state systems, the food allowance runs to just $2 or $3 per inmate per day, and that has to cover 3 full meals: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every day, no exceptions, no closing for a holiday. Picture a single kitchen turning out 3,000 meals before most people have finished their first coffee. The prison cook plans menus around bulk commodities, stretches protein across hundreds of trays, and hits a legally mandated calorie count whether the delivery truck showed up on time or not. And he does most of it with an inmate labor crew he has to supervise while he works. Teaching knife skills to people whose access to a knife is the exact thing the entire facility is built to control. Every blade is counted in and counted out. A missing paring knife can lock down the whole kitchen. Getting here isn't glamorous. There's no culinary school pedigree required, but there's a grind: years on a hotline, serve-safe food safety certification, and a tolerance for scale most trained chefs never build. Commercial dish machines run their sanitizing rinse at around 180 degrees, and he's standing in that steam heat for an 8-hour shift, watching the clock and the count at the same time. Here's the part that lands. Food is the single most reliable trigger for tension inside a prison. A cold tray, a short portion, a menu that repeats too often — those are the small sparks that turn a calm block restless. The prison cook isn't just feeding people, he's quietly holding one of the most fragile pressure valves in the entire building steady 3 times a day, and almost nobody on the outside knows his name. The Watchtower Guard. While everyone else works among the population, this one works entirely alone, sealed in a concrete box in the sky, sometimes 40 feet up, for an entire shift. The Watchtower Guard is the highest, quietest, and loneliest post in the whole facility, and that isolation is the job, not a side effect of it. The core duty is deceptively simple: watch and be ready to do the one thing no one else can. From the tower, he has the clearest sight line over the yard, the fence line, and the movement below, and in many facilities, he's the post authorized to carry a rifle. He may go months without ever needing it, but the entire reason the tower exists is for the single moment when a fight in the yard turns into something worse, or someone tests the fence, and he's the last line with a clear shot and a clear view. Hours of nothing, guarding against one instant of everything. The toll is the monotony fighting the vigilance. Human attention naturally collapses after about 20 minutes of staring at a static scene. Psychologists call it the vigilance decrement, and his job is to beat that decline for 8, 10, sometimes 12 straight hours, alone, through heat that turns the tower into an oven, and winter wind that cuts straight through it. No coworker to talk to, limited relief breaks, and a radio that stays silent right up until the second it can't. The path here runs through the same academy every correctional officer completes. Often several weeks of training covering firearms qualification, use of force policy, and emergency response, plus the range time to earn and keep that tower certification. Not everyone gets posted up there. It goes to officers trusted to stay sharp with no one watching them. And that's the quiet awe of it. The Watchtower Guard spends his career preparing intensely for a moment he hopes never comes. His success is measured in silence. In every shift where nothing happened, precisely because he was up there, awake, watching the whole world below. The Perimeter Patrol Guard. If the tower is the eyes above, this is the constant motion around the edge. The Perimeter Patrol Guard works the outer ring, the no man's land between the last fence and freedom, circling the entire facility in a marked vehicle hour after hour, all night long. While the drama happens inside, his whole world is the thin line where inside becomes outside. His core duty is to make that line uncrossable. He drives the perimeter road, checking the fence for cuts, the razor wire for damage, and the ground for the footprints or dropped tools that signal someone's been testing the boundary. Modern prisons wrap that fence in motion sensors and microwave detection fields, but sensors trip on rabbits blowing trash and heavy rain, so every alarm still needs a human to roll out and physically confirm it's nothing. And in the last decade, his job quietly doubled. Drones. Contraband drops by drone have exploded, with facilities reporting them flying packages of phones and drugs straight over the wall into the yard, and the perimeter patrol is the first set of eyes meant to catch them. The training mirrors the standard officer academy, but the skill that keeps them effective can't really be taught. It's the discipline to treat the 10,000th lap of an empty fence with the same attention as the first. Complacency out here isn't a bad habit. It's the exact gap an escape plan is built around. The weight of it is this: he almost never sees the people he's guarding. He spends entire careers driving a dark loop around a wall, alone, and the measure of a perfect shift is that absolutely nothing happened. But the one night something does. A cut fence, a rope over the wire, a shadow moving where no shadow should be. He's the only thing standing between a maximum security population and the open road. An entire town sleeps easier because one person keeps circling that fence in the dark. The cell block supervisor. Every other officer manages a post. This one manages a population. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of inmates packed into a single housing unit. All day, with only a handful of staff and no weapon on his belt. The cell block supervisor runs the most volatile real estate in the building, the place where incarcerated people actually live, eat, argue, and simmer 24 hours a day. His core duty is control through presence, not force. He runs the formal counts, and in most facilities, the entire prison freezes several times a day for a standing count, where every single inmate must be physically accounted for. If his numbers don't match, the whole facility locks down until the missing person is found, and every minute of that delay is on him. Between counts, he's managing meals, movement, showers, and the constant low-grade friction of too many people in too little space. Reading the mood of the block, catching the fight before it starts, diffusing the argument over a TV channel before it becomes a weapon. He's outnumbered by 100 to 1 and holds the unit together with nothing but authority, consistency, and nerve. The path runs through the full corrections academy, but the real training is years on the floor learning to read a room that can turn in seconds. Veterans talk about developing an ear for it, the way a normally loud block goes, suddenly, deliberately quiet, right before something happens. And here's the awe underneath the grind. The cell block supervisor's greatest tool is relationship. The officers who survive decades in the block do it not by dominating it, but by earning a strange, hard-won respect from the very people they lock in every night. He knows the men in his unit by name, by history, by mood. He is simultaneously their jailer and, on the worst days, the only stable adult in a building designed to strip stability away. And he holds both of those truths every shift he walks the tier. The prison nurse. In a hospital, a nurse has a whole system built to protect her. Panic buttons, security, colleagues down the hall. This one has almost none of that. The prison nurse practices medicine inside a maximum security facility, often behind a locked door, sometimes with a single officer for backup, treating a patient who may be the most dangerous person she'll meet all year. She's a caregiver operating in the one environment engineered to assume everyone is a threat. Her core duty is real, hard medicine under impossible conditions. Prison populations carry a staggering disease burden. Rates of hepatitis C, HIV, diabetes, and serious mental illness run far above the outside world, with some studies putting hepatitis C infection among incarcerated people at roughly 10 times the national rate. She runs sick call, manages chronic conditions, distributes medication to hundreds of patients on a strict schedule during MedPass, and responds to everything from a fabricated complaint meant to score narcotics to a genuine heart attack or a suicide attempt she has to treat while officers secure the scene. She has to be clinically sharp and constantly quietly assessing whether the person in front of her is really sick or setting her up. The path is the same nursing degree and licensure any hospital nurse earns. But correctional nursing adds a second, unwritten curriculum learned only on the job. How to deliver compassionate care without dropping her guard. How to stay a nurse in a place that would rather she become a guard. And this is the quiet, difficult heart of it. Society has decided these are the people it wants to forget, and she is the one who shows up anyway, checking a blood sugar level, dressing a wound, sitting with someone in withdrawal at 3 in the morning. The prison nurse holds a line most people never think about, that even here, even for them, medicine still means someone is obligated to care. She carries that obligation into a place built on the opposite idea, every single shift. The Contraband Investigator. Most officers react to what they can see. This one hunts what's hidden. The Contraband Investigator works the intelligence side of the prison, often part of what many systems call Special Investigative Services. And his entire job is to uncover the secret economy running underneath the visible one. Every prison has a shadow world of smuggled goods, coded messages, and gang politics, and he's the one who spends his career pulling it into the light. His core duty is investigation in its purest form. He monitors recorded inmate phone calls, decodes the slang and the layered messages passed between the inside and the outside, tracks the flow of the single most valuable piece of contraband in modern corrections, the cell phone. A smuggled phone lets an incarcerated person run a business, coordinate with people beyond the wall, and organize things a locked door was supposed to stop, which is exactly why he treats every seized handset like a case file. He maps the gang hierarchies, follows the money on commissary accounts, and works informants in a closed world where being identified as one can be a death sentence. It's detective work, run inside a building where the suspects can never leave, and neither, in a sense, can he. The path here usually runs through years as a line officer first. You can't investigate a world you don't understand, layered with training in criminal investigation, gang intelligence, and evidence handling that would look familiar to any outside detective. And here's the scale of what he's actually guarding against. The threats he chases don't stay behind the wall. The contraband phone he seizes might be the one coordinating a crime in a city 50 miles away. The gang structure he maps inside is often the same one operating on the street. The contraband investigator isn't just keeping order in a cell block. He's quietly working one of the few vantage points where the inside and outside of the criminal world overlap, and most of his biggest wins are ones the public will never hear about. The Riot Response Officer. Every other officer's job is to keep the worst day from happening. This is the one who runs toward it when it does. The Riot Response Officer serves on the facility's emergency team, often called a Correctional Emergency Response Team, or CERT, the tactical unit trained and equipped to handle the situations that overwhelm normal staff. Full-scale riots, hostage takings, cell extractions, and mass disturbances. When the alarm that empties the building goes off, everyone else moves away from the trouble. This is the team that gears up and moves into it. His core duty is controlled, disciplined force at the exact moment chaos peaks. A cell extraction, removing a barricaded, often armed inmate who refuses to come out, is one of the most dangerous few minutes in all of corrections, executed by a stacked team moving in formation behind a shield into a space the size of a closet. He trains for riots where a unit of officers has to retake a yard or a block from dozens of inmates, for hostage situations where a colleague's life is on the line, and for the grim reality that he may have to use overwhelming force, and then, minutes later, provide first aid to the same person. It's violence delivered with restraint, under policy, on camera, with zero room for error. The path is brutal by design. He's already a seasoned officer before he can even try out, then faces selection and ongoing tactical training, close quarters movement, chemical agent deployment, defensive tactics, and a level of physical conditioning that has to hold up under 100 pounds of gear. Teams drill the same scenarios over and over precisely so that when the real one comes, muscle memory takes over where fear would freeze anyone else. And this is the weight he carries. He trains constantly for the worst day in the building, knowing that if he's ever fully needed, something has already gone terribly wrong. He's the answer to the question every prison hopes it never has to ask. And when it does, seconds matter. And he's already running. The Warden. Every role so far answers to someone. This is the someone. The Warden sits at the top of the entire facility, and with that height comes a weight none of the others carry. Ultimate, personal accountability for everything that happens inside the walls. Every count, every meal, every fight, every death, every escape, all of it, in the end, lands on his desk. He may be the person furthest from the cell block, but he's the one who owns everything that happens in it. His core duty is to hold an impossible balance every single day. He runs what amounts to a small, dangerous city, often housing thousands of people who don't want to be there, staffed by hundreds of officers, on a state budget that's never enough. He answers to politicians in courts above him and to a volatile population below him, and both can end his career. A federal court order overcrowding, a staffing shortage that forces mandatory overtime, a single incident that makes the news. He manages all of it while remaining on call, 24 hours a day, because a prison never actually closes, and the worst emergencies rarely happen at a convenient hour. When the phone rings at 3 in the morning, it's for him. The path is a full career compressed into one person. Years as an officer, then a supervisor, then through every rung of management, each step adding responsibility and subtracting the ability to blame anyone above you. By the time someone reaches Warden, they've usually spent decades inside, and they've traded the relative simplicity of a single post for a job where every decision is a compromise between security, humanity, cost, and law. And here's the truth that sits under the title. The Warden sets the entire temperature of the place. A well-run prison and a powder keg can hold the identical population. The difference is leadership. He is the one person whose judgment, calm, and character quietly determine whether 1,000 human beings spend their days in something like order or something like hell. Almost no one on the outside will ever grasp what that costs him. 8 roles, 1 wall. From the cook holding the pressure steady 3 times a day to the warden who answers for all of it, A prison only runs because these people show up and do the hardest version of an already hard job. If this gave you a new respect for the people behind those walls, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you work one of these roles right now, or you're thinking about it, drop a comment below and tell us what it's really like.